Okay, so we shall begin with the talk, which I'm so excited to share. So let me just find out the exact title. Being at peace even with a chaotic mind. Yeah, I have to say that I didn't pick this title. It's not something I would normally go for, but I'm going to try and give it a bash. Being at peace, even with a chaotic mind. So when I talk about non-duality, or in a way, everything becomes like this. There is an allowing everything to emerge out of the unknown, a big consciousness. Rather than to emerge out of a construct of who we want to be. The beautiful thing about the expression of non-duality is I don't think that anyone or any teacher would want to be nothing. So the subject is very annihilating in the sense that there has to be such an openness to this message in order to go into it. And then to go from that, to having the awakening and then to expressing it. It can't really be that ego forming to proclaim that you're nothing. Although I'm sure the ego can make a mastery out of it as well. When I say the ego, I mean seeking. It's confusing because Ramesh Balsekar uses ego in the positive, Eckhart Tolle uses it in the negative. So yeah, I mean seeking identity. You know, when I first started listening to Buddhism, which is the first time I actively heard this. I was hearing it before, but in different ways, through art, through psychology. But But when I actively heard Buddhist teachers talk about the emptiness of what we are, and in Buddhism, the emptiness is like really spoken about a lot. There was such profound resonance with it. It was seen as something so beautiful. Um, it wasn't scary as such. There was also an element where I think my mind overlooked that as well. But it was so refreshing, vast and spacious. Something rung so true here, that this is empty. And even now, when I say those words, that this experience is empty, my heart chakra sings with joy. It really backflips with the ecstasy of this. But to the seeking ego, that makes no sense. Like, how could emptiness be such a celebration? Because the seeking ego or the seeking identity always wants to be something, always needs to be something. So you could say that it could find some form of identity in the emptiness, but not much, not much. To me, the love and the ecstasy is a result of the deep knowing of its truth. It's not an intellectual knowing. It's not something that doesn't make difference in experience. It is a deep, deep celebration of that freedom. This is the only place of freedom in this life. Life is going to continuously change and evolve and expand. And there is one thing which will remain eternally free, and that is the emptiness of who you are. When there is disconnection from that, when that is not known deeply, then suffering entails, the identity takes over, and then there is a seeking in time, in things, in objects, in order to find freedom. Let's move my camera down slightly. A bit low in the screen. The thinking mind becomes chaotic when it doesn't know who it is. So when it's believing it is an identity, a form, a thing, a name, and it is believing that, then it begins to get crazy looking for itself and looking for the truth. It begins to imagine all types of things, like my happiness is dependent on getting on with my neighbors. So then there is an intense seeking to be liked, to be loved, to fit in, to be appreciated. Or my happiness is in having a certain amount of money. So then there is an intense seeking to get a certain amount of money and then show off the money, or be addicted to the money. And this all creates chaotic thinking that builds and builds over time. If the thinking is really analyzed, you'll see that the disruptions of the thinking mind always come from a craving or a wanting of something. Or a craving and a wanting to be something. In a way, you could say to be something, because the wanting something is always, in a way, to be something. However, to go back to the title, there is freedom in the craziness of the mind, or in the chaos of the mind. When this is really seen, there is absolute freedom. The freedom isn't a result of something. Freedom isn't a result of doing, becoming, of understanding. It's the result of remembering, but not for someone, not as a thought, not as an idea, and remembering beyond that. Or maybe you could call it an emergence of something that's been hidden. That who you are is this potential, primordial, bombastic, invisible, no thing, emptiness. That is using consciousness or creating consciousness in order to experience itself. and that the consciousness that's looking out of the eyes, that's hearing the sounds, that's perceiving everything that's happening now, isn't belonging to the person, to thoughts, to the body, is actually that of God, that of the divine, and the person is arising in that. And this is absolute freedom to recognize that. And sometimes that can be recognized, and for a period afterwards, the mind does go crazy because it's trying to grab on to an identity. But as long as that remembrance remains, then the mind begins to settle down and through time becomes back to its natural or more natural way of operating. It expands more into what it is as a mind without identity. And just as a disclaimer, everything that I share here isn't the truth. It's not an opinion, it's an expression. It's more like poetry, trying to point to something beyond you. Beyond you. It's a total love affair and celebration. This isn't hopeless, this isn't pointless, this isn't meaningless, this isn't negative. It's absolute love, absolute love. However, in the disillusionment of the thinking mind, the mind can find itself pointless, meaningless, and can find this subject, all those things. That isn't the truth either. That's only because the mind has been so used to looking for its freedom in matter, in something, in subject, object, me, who is going to become the world's biggest ... I'll let you fill that in. The world's biggest, oh, whatever you come up with, that's really saying something about your personality. It's a joke. So if you are currently experiencing a chaotic mind, the chaotic mind is like a fisherman throwing out its nets or throwing out its hook. It's trying to grab attention. It's trying to hook the identity, like trying to be believed. So I might be saying you're failing, I might be saying I'm failing, this message is hopeless, I can't bear this, I want this, I don't want this, I need this, like whatever it's saying, is trying to hook the attention so it's the full screen, so the big consciousness and the mind, or the seeking identity, feel like they're one and the same thing. And it's really seeing that all of it's not true. And why that has to be seen as not true, so the hooks don't land, and there's not scampering off into the timeline of thought. It's seeing they're not true and asking or recognizing or delving into where do those thoughts come from, and who do the thoughts come from? Who am I? Who am I? This is such a profound question. Where are my thoughts coming from? Where is my personal awareness coming from? Where are my actions coming from? Where is my looking coming from? Where is my hearing coming from? So when the thoughts aren't sending the attention into a seeking timeline, so when they're not grabbing the attention and off into, she did that, he did this, I did that, you know, the usual riff-raff, and that collapses, then there can be an investigation into where is all of this coming from. And it's so obvious that it's terrifying to the mind. It's so obvious that everything is appearing from no place or emptiness. And this emptiness is not the enemy. That's what the mind says. This emptiness is absolute love. Absolute love. Such love. Where does it all come from? So does my speaking come from Lisa? Are you hearing it? Or is it actually arising from no place, no time, no space, no thing? Yep, yep. What beauty. I'm not a teacher of the intellect. I'm not a teacher of ideas. In fact, I'm not really a teacher. It's just that's what we have to define me as in order to communicate. Actually, what I'm doing is I'm expressing the truth from the truth, and I'm inviting you to join me, but in silence, not in words. The silence of the words are inviting you, but not the actual meaning. The meaning might be having a positive effect and collapsing something. It's actually the silence the words are being spoken with. The emptiness in which the words are being spoken with. This is the freedom of satsang. This is how satsang happens, a meeting in truth. And it's such a beautiful thing, satsang, when there is a group that transpires and you all join in this. There is a commitment to meeting in truth. And then you all ping pong off each other this emptiness, you know. Maybe the teacher starts it by speaking and the emptiness is conveyed a bit, but then the others begin to resonate with it and ping, 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 pong, ping, 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 pong, ping, ping. It's contagious. What that can also do is bring up immense suffering, you know, what's blocking the way. So it's not always that you go to sit satsang and you feel blissed out. It can also bring other stuff, but it can often do this. And it's not, it's not the end and the beginning of the process. It's part of the apparent process of the person waking up. It goes to satsang, and this is becoming more and more evident. And then when it's not in satsang, in a way, satsang is happening. The process of unidentification is happening through everything in this life. It's perfect orchestra. If your destiny is to wake up in this life, where in a way everybody's destiny is that, then life will then take you on a journey where it exposes all karma, all illusion. Everything will be exposed through the happenings, whether that be becoming ultra successful to see it's not in that, getting lost in a cult, and having bad experiences. All of this, taking the right vein that everything is a teaching, will help or will chip away at the identity. I'm not promoting or excusing abusive people in that. I'm all up for holding people accountable and understanding what use coercive control is, and the effects of cults and the negative effects of the cult. But in saying that, I'm trying to promote this idea that all of this can lead to a greater freedom and a greater truth within. If taken in the right vein. There's always going to be ups and downs in this life. So it's really everything, like changing the mind from seeing everything as good and bad to seeing everything as grace. Everything is an act of grace. That doesn't mean denying emotions. When something difficult happens here, I can cry, I can grieve. It's even seeing that as grace. It's a change of mentality from life happening to me for life is me. Life is me.